Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a heartwarming tale from a past Christmas. A family nominated for Shop with a Veteran faced a challenge when it came to their hyperactive daughter, diagnosed with severe ADHD. You, a senior citizen military veteran, can handle my hyperactive 7-year-old? Be my guest. This happened years ago with myself, a friend, and my then boyfriend and his daughter. We couldn't do much for toys for this particular Christmas, but our family was nominated for an event called Shop with a Veteran. It's where kids get to go in a Walmart with a veteran and can pick out their own Christmas gifts with a set amount of money donated by civilians and other veterans. The thing is, only the veteran can go in with them. I had later found out it was because some parents had earlier tried to persuade their kids to get things that were more catered to the parents or another child instead of the child who was nominated. I can definitely understand the rule being enforced for this, but some children should have their parents with them. My boyfriend's daughter was diagnosed with severe ADHD and had taken her medication, but she'd gotten very excited when she found out about going to get Christmas gifts of her choosing. We found the lady hosting and explained to her that the daughter's ADHD and how she can be a whirlwind when she gets excited and how she doesn't like to listen to people she doesn't know. When we explained to the lady hosting the event that one of us should go in with his daughter just to make sure she behaved, she understood and talked to the veteran who was going to shop with the daughter. He immediately argued, claiming he was tired of parents wanting to pressure their kids into getting things they didn't want, and he wanted the daughter to have a good time picking out her gift. The lady tried to explain the situation, but the veteran wouldn't hear any of it. I clearly remember him grumbling at us, "I've been to war, I can handle a kid." Well, in that case. After the veteran took the daughter into the store, we saw two friends going in. We didn't know they'd be there, but we were happy to see them. My boyfriend caught up with them and asked one of them if they could keep an eye on the daughter and the veteran. My boyfriend then emphasized that the veteran clearly thought he could handle his daughter, so let him handle her. We waited for about an hour when the veteran returned with the daughter. She was grinning ear to ear at all the presents she was able to get. The veteran looked exhausted, like he'd been through hell. He then yelled at us that the daughter was the most disrespectful brat he'd ever met. How she had to touch all the toys and threw everything she wanted into the shopping cart, and she was a nightmare when he told her she couldn't have everything she picked out. My boyfriend packed his daughter's gifts in the car and then took her back inside to start our grocery shopping. We couldn't do it while she was in there with the veteran because we had to wait outside for when they were done so we could immediately take her and her gifts. Understandable, they weren't babysitters. I decided to talk to the veteran and told my boyfriend that I'd meet him inside. I asked him if he was okay. He said he was fine, but why didn't we tell him our daughter was crazy? I promptly corrected him by saying she was not crazy. I explained her ADHD to him and how we only wanted to go in with them so she would behave. We know that she knows to behave around us, school, and grandma's house. How she doesn't like to listen to strangers even if we know them and she doesn't. I apologized and told him not all parents want to go in to use this as an excuse to get their own gifts. Some genuinely just want to make sure their kids behave. Later in the store, our friend caught up with us and told us everything that happened. The daughter had run up and down the toy aisles. She kept going back and forth from the toys to the cart, throwing in anything she could get her hands on. She even screamed at the veteran when he put some of the toys back. Typical behavior when her normal authority figures aren't watching. When she was satisfied with toys she did get, she kept asking for candy at the checkout, which she asks anyone for when we go to the store. It was amusing to us that a grizzled military veteran was outmatched by a hyperactive 7-year-old. We've since then been better off, and we donate money to this event every year and even toys for any toy drive they have. The veteran still does the event, but he's more understanding when certain children need their parents to go with them. He does get the odd pushy parent now and then, but he handles them rather than flat out denies all parents going in. And our second story. Mean note left in the cookie dough was never read. I come out looking like a champ. I guess this is the best place for this story, and I guess this is unconscious petty revenge. The best part of this story just happened a little while ago. I've been craving chocolate chip cookies and was on my way home from errands earlier this afternoon intending on making some. I could make them completely from scratch. I'm a darn good cook and baker, but I usually buy the fridge rolls and an extra bag of chips and bake them. And they taste just as good in my opinion. No one ever complains when I hand them warm out of the oven chocolate chip cookies. I'd planned on stopping on the way home and picking the supplies up when I remembered that I had some frozen cookie dough in the deep freezer. I discovered it a few nights ago while looking for something else in the freezer because the tub was at the very bottom. Yes, my freezer needs cleaning out. I bought the tub of cookie dough a year ago last spring during a high school fundraiser. My friend Sarah, mid-30s, has an older sister, Julie, late 30s, with kids in high school. The proceeds from the fundraiser were to pay for a chorus trip that Julie's daughter went on over last summer. So despite me thinking that the cookie dough was far overpriced, I bought a bucket. Hey, I was a band kid, I remember those days. A couple of weeks later, I was at Sarah's house and Julie was there as well. I was in the process of selling one of my old vehicles and Julie's car had just died and she asked me how much I wanted for mine. I told her the price and she smiled a little smile and said, "What's the sister of your friend price?" I laughed, thinking it was a joke, and told her it was the same price, that I needed to get that much out of the car and it was well worth the price I was asking. Julie then offered me half of what I was asking in cash. I said no. She added another $100 and again I said no. Julie was no longer smiling and told me I was being greedy and B-wordy. And everyone who sells cars, dickers, and I should have started out higher if I wanted to get what I was asking. I don't dicker. When I sell something, I sell it for the price I need to get. Eventually, Julie got pissed when she saw I wasn't going to come off of my price and called me greedy again, told Sarah she had some crappy friends in front of me, and left. I didn't hear from her or see her again for a few months. Sarah just rolled her eyes and told me to ignore Julie because she could be a real drama queen when she didn't get her way. The cookie dough orders arrived and I picked my bucket up from Sarah. As these things tend to go, I didn't want to make cookies at that moment, so I put the bucket in the deep freeze and promptly forgot about it. It eventually sunk to the bottom of the deep freeze as things got added, subtracted, and moved around. In the year and a half since then, I've been around Julie several times while hanging with Sarah. At first she was very cold to me, but eventually she warmed back up, and while we were friendly, I wouldn't call us friends. I do, however, remember Sarah telling me about 6 to 8 months ago that she was so proud and impressed with me that I could be the better person. I wasn't sure what she was talking about at the time, so I just said, thanks. I got home about an hour ago and dug the bucket out of the freezer. Think a 1-gallon plastic ice cream bucket full of cookie dough. I pulled the top off, and inside the bucket, sitting on top, was the following note on a Post-it. I hope you choke on it, B-word. I just sat and roared with laughter. This woman thought she was getting a dig into me and kept waiting for me to react for a year and a half. All the while, that little sticky note was sitting in that bucket in the bottom of my freezer. Meanwhile, my friend thinks I'm noble. So I'm thinking Julie confessed that she left the note at some point. No one's ever brought it up to me, and I don't plan on mentioning it again. Should someone mention it to me, I'll look them dead in the eyes and say, the cookies were the best I've ever had. And then I'm gonna grin. Sometimes revenge is best served cold, and sometimes it's piping hot and melty delicious, as is this cookie I'm chewing on while typing this. I added walnuts and pecans to the dough as well as extra chips. In the end, I got the last laugh. Oh yeah, and a day after she tried to cut me on the cost of the vehicle, a guy paid full price and said the tires alone were worth what I was asking. Damn. It's amazing how entitled some people are. No one's obligated to sell you anything for X price that you'd prefer. Who even thinks like that? Very entertaining revenge story. And our next story. Is this what you wanted? For context, I worked in a retirement home as the only nurse on during any said shift and worked graveyard shifts. Even this shift was jam-packed with duties because they didn't ever want us to be bored. A good 1/3 of these duties involved cleaning that got overlapped by housekeeping at least once a week. I'm fairly creative and my managers knew this. One manager asked me to do window art paintings and make the place seem more festive for a super important party they were throwing for the public. They were going out of their way to make it look nicer than usual because their bosses and the owners were going to attend, as well as local news. I agreed to do the painting for free because it sounded fun. They asked me a week before the party, so I figured I'd just use my 1-hour total break time during a shift to do the paintings instead of coming in on my 1 day off that week. The paintings were all over the glass doors and floor-to-ceiling windows, so it took some time. I spent 5 of my shifts doing them, and the night before the party, I finally finished. I painted the hour closer to the beginning of my shift to finish it on day 5. The rest of the shift was insane with emergencies that only I could tend to because I am the only actual nurse on duty. Needless to say, a lot of the little cleaning things didn't get done, such as cleaning windows and mopping the floor. I left the manager a note of all the cleaning duties that I didn't have time for because I usually finish all my duties and like to keep them informed when I'm unable to. I come in through the front doors on my last night shift and smile because the painting's exactly what I envisioned, and it's finally done. I got a lot of texts from coworkers and managers saying how much they love the paintings and how it'll be perfect for my pictures. In my bedroom is a note with my name on it. My manager wrote me a note saying it was unacceptable that these duties were unfinished and I should not have wasted company time doing the painting instead of my duties. Mind you, I had told her I would only be using my break times to do the paintings when I was initially asked to do them. There were cameras pointing at the areas I was painting, so she was able to see that I never spent more than an hour per shift painting. I'm so mad at this point reading the letter. My shift finishes at 7 a.m., and the party's set to start at 11 a.m. So I washed the hell out of those windows that night. Goodbye, art. I went home before that manager got there, so I didn't have to explain. My coworkers told me the other managers were all mad at her for ruining the photo op spot and understood why I cleaned it off. Still makes me smile thinking about it. Wow, what a frustrating situation. It's great that your coworkers understood and had your back in the end. And our last story. Students destroyed my car, school now threatening to sack me if I take action. Hello, I work as a secondary school math teacher in the north of England. Last week, some delinquent students in my math class approached me after a lesson when break started and asked if I had 2 cars. When I said it was none of their business, one of them said he hoped I did for my sake before they left and kicked over a chair. Later that day, when I went to leave, I found my car had been badly vandalized. Paint stripper poured all over the car and into the fuel tank, as well as the windows being completely smashed, and various words like D-head and jerk scratched onto the car. I immediately went to the head and asked for CCTV of the car park and confirmed my suspicions of who had done it. The next day, we get them and the head makes them give a very limp apology to me before saying they'll be going to isolation for a day. Throughout the entire time, they constantly denied being involved and also made allegations that I'm a pedo and had touched them. After he dismissed them and asked me if I'm satisfied, I immediately said no, that I'd be looking into suing their families for the damage to my car, as I now have to get my dad to drive me to work. The head told me as far as he was concerned, this was over, and that if I took it any further, I'd be sacked for bringing the school into disrepute. He also told me not to tell anyone about the incident, and if asked, just say, I had an accident. Also, throughout the entire time, he remained dismissive of me and said them wrecking my car was just some banter between lads. Personally, I think a single day's isolation for destroying my car and having it passed off as banter is insulting, especially as students at this school get worse punishments for having ties being too long. Edit. So I've contacted the police, who were very sympathetic, and they've opened up an investigation. Emailed the union and the school's safeguarding team, and just need to wait for a response. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.